welcome to this episode of Chain Conversations. My name is Laura McQueen and I'm the MD here at Leaders. This season is part of a programme called the Leaders Meet Diversity series, which we've been running in partnership with Facebook for a couple of years now. Chain Conversation brings together leaders from a variety of backgrounds across professional sport to share their personal stories, to reflect on their own career journeys, pinpointing some peaks and troughs, some helps and hindrances along the way to share with you. The premise is simple, really. Person A picks person B to interview, person B picks person C to interview, and so on and so on. So over the course of the coming months, you'll really get exposed to quite a lot of independent personal journeys throughout the sports industry. The aim is to inspire you, to energise you, and to showcase why diverse thinking and diverse opportunity makes for a better business across sport and beyond. I really hope you enjoy it and speak to you soon.
Hello, my name is Melissa Proctor. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of the Atlanta Hawks and State Farm Arena here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I am so excited to be interviewing today Michelle Carney, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Special Olympics Great Britain. Welcome.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm so happy to be interviewed by you today. Inspired by you.
Well, I'm glad to be interviewing you. So first things first, we were able to chat a little bit earlier, but tell me about your career. How did you get started in the sports industry?
So sport was always my passion. I grew up next to Man United football ground. I was a complete football, soccer fanatic. Went to a school which was an all-girls secondary school, high school level. And they didn't believe in any sport that wasn't female. And, so I used to be chucked out of the headmistress's office regularly for daring to suggest that we brought football into the school. So, I had to kind of really fight to play sport. And, young people these days, there's so many more opportunities. So, sport was my passion, but I also love business. And then I met a lecturer at college. I was studying business and finance. He said you can put the two together, and started out in my career. Started out in disability sport. Worked in the learning disability service. Spent some time in the States, working with people with challenging behaviours and brain injuries. Back to the UK in sports development. Went to Australia I ended up managing a chain of Irish pubs. I know, go me, woo! And then missed sport. And so I came back to the UK, spent 10 years leading a number of multi-sector, multi-stakeholder partnerships, working with lots of different agencies. Then I got really sick and had an opportunity to really reflect on what did I want to do and what was my bigger purpose. And really went down the international development route and spent a number of years working. So I tried out international development, worked in professional sport, in cricket, in 2 different cricket clubs, worked at Comic Relief, and spent some time out in Southern Africa, working for a sports-based charity. I built a social enterprise out there. And then I landed where I was always meant to be, at Special Olympics Great Britain. And I'm on record of saying I believe I have the best job in sport, and I 100% feel it on every level. But I had to, whilst my CV, my journey is non-traditional, it's given me all the skills and attributes and, all of that learning to land here. And I love it.
That's awesome. And it's very similar to my career, just in terms of the non-traditional. Didn't get to the pub side though, like that's pretty cool. But for you in your current role, like what's the best part of your role? You mentioned your passion for sports, but based on what you do day to day, like what do you enjoy the most?
The bit I enjoy the most is our athletes, and they bring me so much joy. And like our athletes at Special Olympics all have an intellectual disability, and life before Special Olympics, when I talked to each of them and said what was life like before, they were bullied, they had no friends, they were isolated, they had bottles thrown at them, some didn't want to live, really horrific stories. And you say, what does Special Olympics bring? I have fun, I've got new friends, I learn new skills, and they are such a joy. They show what resilience is all about. They show what kindness about, a passion for life and not letting anything stand in the way. And for me, I just have the best laugh. And, seeing their journeys I've been in this role 2.5 years now, and I have an athlete leadership team. And over 2 years ago, I met the athlete. It's led by athletes, run by athletes, and it's made up of athlete leaders. And I said, what is it you want? And they basically said, we want a voice and we want to be heard. So I was like, done deal. And then seeing their journey, each of those individual journeys just gives me life. So one guy who draws these stadiums, that's Old Trafford, Man United. When I met him, Niall was non-verbal. He used chatty's cards to say, I'm frustrated, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm feeling excited. Today, he's been interviewed on ESPN, he's been on BBC News, he's been on the radio. Wow. We're setting him up as a social entrepreneur. And so for me, I just get so much joy in lighting a spark and watching people thrive. So that's the bit that, when you're having a rough day, you just kind of go back to why I'm doing it. And that's about the athletes. But I also love, the bit I really love about this organization is the potential of it. And I'm a transformational leader, I like to see change, and we have so much potential here, and that excites me. Great. So, I'm so excited by that. So it means that we can reach more people.
That is so cool. That is, I totally understand, in the role and really being able to create change, especially in people's lives through sport.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. You also mentioned transformational leadership in terms of kind of the type of leader that you are. Would love to learn more about kind of your leadership style and how your experiences working internationally kind of shifted your leadership style, if at all.
Yeah, I would say I'm a leader with empathy. I'm heart-led. I expect a lot. I'm about creating environments where people can thrive. And I'm a values-led leader. And I've learned that along the way that, I needed to create the environment that suits me. I think we all need to find our place. And, I've worked in big organizations, small organizations, toxic organizations, and, organizations who said, yeah, we want change, but actually we don't want anything to change. Right. So, I always struggle to kind of find my place. I'm working internationally. Worked in the States at 21. I went to Australia at 23, and my time in Southern Africa a few years ago. What I learned and what I've taken from each of those experiences about, patience, about understanding different cultures, and that's not just about an ethnic culture or a community culture. That's about an organizational culture. And, in every environment, there's a different culture, and everybody's got a different starting point as well. And I've really learned that, you can't go in with assumptions, and you have to be ready. You might think you're going to lead from this level up, but then you find actually the team, and I found this in Lesotho, are actually at this base level. So you have to meet people at their starting point, and then grow and develop. And, I'll give you an example. So in Lesotho, so I helped build a social enterprise. So we built a hotel, a restaurant, conference center, and it was staffed with trainees who'd come through we use football as a tool to combat HIV/AIDS, and worked with an awful lot of kids who lived on the streets and young people who were orphans or double orphans, and had come through our programs, peer mentoring programs. Anyway, so I'd run the charity in the day, and then at night when we opened the restaurant, I would teach how to run the bar, you know, and run the restaurant.
Mhm.
And at the starting point of our team was they didn't know the difference between a red wine, a white wine, didn't know what a gin was and why a gin went with a tonic. So that was
Oh, wow.
that was our starting point. And you know, and I'd go have a sip of gin and then drink this tonic. They're like, "Ah," and I might put the two together and going, oh, okay. Then fast forward 10 months, Samano, one of our bar lads, is making cocktails. So you meet them at their point and then you can accelerate growth. So I learned a lot about patience, about, you know, cultural and diverse differences,
Mhm.
but you can be united no matter where you come from by a common cause. And when you're all there for the same reasons, you know, that's when the magic happens. So yeah. Oh,
Wow, that's phenomenal. And I completely can see how through those experiences and meeting people where they are, because I'm sure in all of those travels you encountered a number of different cultures and work styles and all the rest. And you know, in the spirit of adapting, you know, based on culture, I feel like around the world the past year has been a lot for everyone, especially women in the workforce. And I've been reading so much research about, you know, women and how the pandemic specifically has shaped women in the workforce. But just out of curiosity, how has that been for you? What have you learned either personally or professionally, you know, over the past year?
I've learned an awful lot, and I think there's a lot of benefits to have been taken from there's been a lot of positives out of the pandemic. One of the greatest things that I think the pandemic has shown has been about the strength of female leadership. So you look at Jacinta Ardern, the Prime Minister for New Zealand, you know, a young mother, and you know, she's been, you know, she's led a tremendous response to the pandemic in New Zealand, but she's led with bravery, with courage. She's not afraid to show vulnerability, and that real empathy of leadership style has really worked. And I think female leaders have really flourished during that time. And for me, I would love to have seen that as a young, aspiring female leader. And I think it's
Absolutely.
fantastic to now for young male and female, anybody, for young people who aspire to be leaders, to know that you don't have to be a ball buster bloke in a dress, you know, you don't have to sit behind and have this power dynamic. And you can be a really effective leader, and developing soft skills and emotional intelligence and the ability to communicate with people is going to take you much further. And that goes back to the bar work, you know. You know, I love your book, you know, in terms of, you know, from ball girl to CMO.
Yeah.
And you know, I went from, you know, in the hospitality industry, and you know, that service industry. I think every young person should work in the service industry, because I just think you learn about customer service, you learn how to deal with people, you learn how to solve problems, and you know, it's an adaptable skill. Because you know, I went from there, ended up as a CEO, a young CEO, and then life happened, and some awful things happened. I lost my home, lost my job, lost my health, lost everything. And then I started again and went back and worked behind a bar for £5.93 an hour. And yeah, and that was after being a CEO for 10 years. I just didn't tell anybody that I'd been a CEO. And then I built myself back up again. But I had that skill. And that's about, you know, resiliency, about, you know, being prepared to do anything. And, you know, we're all in a people business. And sport is really unique in that it unites people, as Nelson Mandela said, in a way that little else does. And sport, you know, it teaches us about like emotion. So sport is about emotion. So sport, you know, you have the highs, you have the lows, you have the wins, you have the losses. But what it does is unite a group of individuals for a common cause. And I think, you know, and we're all cheering for the same, like, you know, whoever's playing who, but it's just magical. And I'm driven by people. I love people. I bounce off people. But my learning over the years and my career from those who have been friends and foes, you know, I've learned equally from people who have behaved well and people who are amazing. Surround yourself with positive people. And, you know, traveling and, you know, being in Africa and, you know, getting a phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning that there's an attempted military coup going on, you actually learn to put things in perspective as well. So I'm really calm in a crisis these days. I'm like, there isn't a gun in my head, you know, it's all good. Chill your boots, you know. So I've had I've had a very interesting life, but I wouldn't change it for the world, you know. I think we all have amazing gifts and we all have a story to tell. And I think all our roles as leaders are, you know, to create environments and platforms where people can share their stories and where people can really grow and thrive, and just lighten that spark and sprinkling the fairy dust and just letting people go, because we all win then.
I agree. I feel like as a leader, one of the best things is when other people want your people and you're able to help grow and develop them. Like that to me is success.
Yeah.
So no, you are incredibly inspiring. Last question, as I know we're short on time. The only thing that we know that is constant in this life is change, to everything that you just said. And, you know, recently with trends, either in new, you know, generational audience trends or technology, if I hear NFT one more time, you know, this evolution is constant. So like, in what's happening in the world, you know, what concerns you most in your role and what gives you the most hope for the future?
So the one thing that keeps me up at night is, as a charity, and we've, you know, I've spent the last 2.5 years doing a full organizational transformation and rebuilding from a broken start, if you like. And funding is what keeps me up at night. That the pandemic has had a catastrophic impact on our ability to fundraise. And, you know, we've gone to the wire a number of times, and, you know, it's our survival financially, which really keeps me up at night. What the pandemic has been great. You know, we all said, you know, when we're all running around in our busy jobs, oh, I'd love to have more time and not to do the commute and stuff. Like, whoa, team, we've been given time. So let's, you know, crack on. What this has done is forced people, and certainly in our business, in our sector, to embrace video conferencing, to embrace the use of technology. And it's meant that what we'd planned to do eventually, we've been able to accelerate that. So people have had to kind of use it or be left out, you know. And I think that's been really positive, and it's really helped us be, you know, we were a very paper heavy organization, and we had, you know, office full of stuff in London, and because we've had to cut costs, we had to let go of the office. So with that, we've had to do a full, you know, just cut everything back. So I think the brilliant thing is as we come out of lockdown, and, you know, our athletes have been disproportionately affected by COVID, and, you know, people with Down syndrome are 10 times more likely to die of COVID. And, you know, and those with an intellectual disability are 2.5 times more likely to suffer from health inequalities and, you know, problems than others. So one of my fears is that some of our athletes will never recover, because the time it has taken and the support to get them to this point where they're confident, they're with friends, and they're out doing activity. You know, the last year of this enforced isolation has taken a number of people back. So with the one of the brilliant things is that we have virtual athlete fun nights we've been doing, where our athletes, we do a quiz and then we get to dance. And last week, I think I wasn't having a great week, and I was like, I'm going to join the athlete fun night. And you just put the disco lights on and you go crazy and dance, and you just get that joy. So I'm really looking forward to bringing the world of virtual and all the benefits that digitization can bring, along with the joy of the physical presence and, you know, bringing people together. So to be able to bring those two together, take the best things out of lockdown and the best things that happened before, and then just being able to think differently and do things differently. Because prior to lockdown, I don't know about you, but I wanted everybody in the office, and I thought that's how you create a team culture and all of that. And actually our team have been incredible.
Ditto.
Some of us
I
haven't even
completely
met
agree.
each other, and whilst we're still missing, certainly from more junior members of staff, who you learn a lot from the unspoken word and the actions and how people operate. They'll get that. But what we've created is quite magical, and I kind of want to take all the best bits and just create a super amazing organization which transforms even more lives.
Oh, that is awesome. And with that, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I'm glad that we got a chance to get to know each other through this. So
Yeah, and I want
you
some
success.
book writing tips from you, Melissa. I think
I
we've got a
got you.
lot to talk about.
Awesome. Take care.
Thank you.